Okay, so as I told you last meeting or last discussion video that today we're going to discuss the week number 7 and week number 8. So let us start with week number 7 first. So week number 7 is talking about the establishing of relationship, which is the last phase of database planning and design. So this will be the last phase after the data refinement and of course after the data definition. We are now going to establish a relationship for the different tables that we created on our data refinement. Okay, so our objective will be identify the types of database relationship. Second is to discover and explain the differences and functions of the database relationship. So it says into your module that database relationship is a link between two or among three or more tables in a database. These relationships allows you to simultaneously view or access related records from two or more tables. So which means we are going to view information, or we're going to view the gathered information from the different person or object into one table only. So by linking the different tables into the different using the different field names po. Okay, and there are three types of relationship. Number one type of relationship is no other than what we call the one-to-one relationship. Second is the one-to-many relationship and the many-to-many relationship. Let us first discuss the one-to-one relationship. Again, relationship is linking one table to another table, and by using or by linking one table to another table, we can view the different information on those tables into one table only. Okay? So, one-to-one relationship. Let us start with one-to-one relationship. It says there that one-to-one relationship means that a record in the first table can only have one related record in the other table. So, as I discussed to you also on our week number 5, the primary key or the function of the primary key and the foreign key. So, once we assign the field names into a primary key, ibig sabihin, that field names will accept only a unique value or a unique record. So, which means hindi pwedeng ma-duplicate yung ating record. Example, yung student ID natin, hindi siya po pwedeng ma-duplicate. So, kailangan dapat unique lagi ang ating student ID. Okay? Now, dito sa example, dito sa illustration, we have one table for the first table and we have our second table. And kung mapapansin, nandito na din sa baba ng table name ang mga field names na na-identify for this table. Okay? Now, kung mapapansin, merong isang field names na nakalagay or naka-indicate or may naka-indicate na susi or a key. Okay, meron siyang naka-indicate na key or susi. So, meron din dito sa kabila. The indication or this indication or the purpose of this indication is it's telling you na itong field name na to is naka-assign as a primary key. Okay, ibig sabihin sa employee number under the employee's personal information is assigned as a primary key, which means yung record na ilalagay natin dito hindi po pwedeng ma-duplicate. So, isa lang siya. Okay, the same as to the employment information table, naka-assign din sa employee number as a primary key. So, hindi pwedeng ma-duplicate, isa lang siya. Okay, dapat nag-iisa siya, unique dapat siya. So, which means, ang isang record dito sa personal information is pwedeng or magkakaroon ng relationship sa isang record sa employment information. So, that is now what we call one-to-one relationship. Pero the question is, bakit ba natin kailangan ng relationship or bakit ba natin kailangan bigyan ng relationship sa employee's personal information at employment information? Okay, employment information ng ating employee. So, to clear that question, so we have here, once we implement this table, ito ang magiging resulta. So, meron tayo ditong for the first table, the personal or contains the personal information of the employee. Then, the second table contains the employment information of the employee. Ngayon, kung wala si student or wala si employee number dito, ang nakalagay lang is date hired, department, position, and salary. Now, how can we identify kung kanino itong date hired na to or kanino itong information na to which is under date, hired, department, position, and salary. Okay? So, paano natin malalaman? Hindi natin malalaman kung wala si employment or employee information. So, through the employee information field names, malalaman natin kung kaninong information ito. Through their employee number. Okay? Through their employee number. But since naka-assign itong employee number sa personal information na sa primary key, unique value lang siya. Then dito, nagkaroon or naka-assign din as a primary key, unique value lang din po siya. So kung babasahin natin ito in a real life situation, ang isang employee pwedeng magkaroon ng isang employment information only. So ibig sabihin, ang isang employee pwedeng ma-hire lang ng isang beses. Okay? Pwedeng ma-hire ng isang beses, pwedeng magkaroon ng sariling salary, at pwede ring magkaroon ng sariling position. Okay? So isang position, isang salary, at isang department lang po siya. So that is what we call now one-to-one relationship. So ang isang employee pwedeng magkaroon lang ng isang employment information. Kasi nga one-to-one, primary key to primary key is equals to one-to-one relationship. Okay? So hindi siya pwedeng ma-duplicate. So kung mapapansin natin, may nakalagay na plus sign dyan sa gilid ng ating table. Okay, dito. Ang plus sign or ang indication na yan, magpapakita yan once na merong karelasyon itong table natin. Ibig sabihin, pag may nagpakitang ganito, ibig sabihin may karelasyon yung table natin. Kasi, pag clinic natin yung plus sign, magpapakita yung karelasyon niya, so magiging ganito ang itsura. Okay, so, employees, personal information, then employment information table. Okay, so ito yung pangalawang table, ito yung main table natin. Mawawala yung employee number dito sa pangalawang table kasi nandito na siya sa main table. Okay, so kung mapapansin, isang employee pwedeng magkaroon lang ng isang employment information. Kasi naka-assign silang dalawa as a primary key, and primary key plus primary key is equals to one-to-one relationship. Okay? So that is the purpose of one-to-one relationship. Okay, now, ano naman ngayon kapag one-to-many relationship? Ibig sabihin, a record can have many related record in the other table. So, sa ibang table. So, pwedeng magkaroon ng madaming karelasyon sa kabilang table. So, this is the interface of one-to-one or one-to-many relationship. So, we have our first table, we have our second table. So, first table is personal information. The second table is the subject information of the student. So, magkahiwalay sila. Now, we have our student ID assigned as a primary key. But on the subject information table, the student ID is assigned as a foreign key. Pag naka-assign yung ating field name as a foreign key, ibig sabihin, pwedeng maduplicate ang ating information or pwedeng maduplicate ang ating record. So, kung babasahin natin ito in a real life situation, ang isang estudyante which contains one student ID only, so ang isang estudyante pwedeng magkaroon ng madaming subject. Okay? Ang isang estudyante pwedeng magkaroon ng madaming subject. Kaya nga, ang symbol na nakalagay dito sa personal information ng student is 1, at ang nakalagay naman dito is infinity sign. Infinity, walang hanggan, so pwedeng magkaroon kahit ilang subject. Okay? So, yun po siya. So, if we're going to implement this one, so we have our first table and we have our second table. So, for the first table, personal information, the second table is the subject information only. Now, kung wala itong student ID, hindi din natin malalaman kung kaninong subject itong mga to at kaninong grades itong mga to. Kaya lalagyan natin ng student ID, and through the student ID, malalaman natin kung kanino tong mga subject na to at kanino tong grades na to. But since ang isang estudyante pwedeng magkaroon ng madaming subject, so dapat dito sa subject information, ang ID natin ay naka-assign as foreign key. Kasi kung naka-assign ito as a primary key, so ibig sabihin, ang sinasabi ninyo na ang estudyante ay pwedeng magkaroon lang ng isang subject. So, hindi naman po pwede yon. Okay? Kaya dapat ito naka-assign as a foreign key. while here on the personal information, naka-assign dapat siya na primary key. Bakit primary key sa personal information? Kasi dapat iisa lang ang ating information as a student. Hindi naman po pwede na dalawa ang birth date natin, hindi naman po pwede na dalawa ang address natin, at dalawa ang iba't ibang personal information natin. Kaya dapat primary key si student ID, unique dapat si student ID. Pero dito sa subject information table, pwedeng foreign key itong student ID kasi nga ang isang estudyante pwedeng magkaroon ng madaming subject. So, malalaman natin kung kaninong subject itong mga to through their student ID. So, ilan ngayon ang estudyante ni ilan ngayon ang subject ni Eliazar? So, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is Math, Science, English, and Filipino. The same as Cheryl and the same as Connie. Something like that. Okay? So, yun ang tinatawag nating one-to-many relationship. Okay? Now, next, let's proceed naman on, wait. Parang kanina, pagka may plus sign yung ating table, ibig sabihin may karelasyon siya. So, pag clinic natin ang plus sign, may expand at magpapakita yung karelasyon ng ating table. So, ito na siya. Okay? To summarize kung ano yung mga subject ng ating mga estudyante. Okay? So, yun siya. Okay? Ito yung mga grades and subject ni Eliazar. Galing ito sa kabilang table. Okay? So, yun siya. Next, para mas maayos ding tignan. Okay? Next, we have also what we call the many-to-many relationship. From the word itself, many records can have many related records in the other table, into another table. So, many-to-many relationship is composed of two one-to-many relationship. Okay? Composed of dalawang one-to-many relationship. So, kung mapapansin ninyo kanina sa table natin on the one-to-many relationship, naka-indicate na din doon sa subject information table ang subject grade. Kaya lang, paano, that is the average. Paano kung kailangan nating hati-hatiin from first grading, second grading, third grading, and fourth grading? So, masyado naman na pong ma-full yung ating subject information table. Okay? Since ang title ng ating second table kanina is subject information table, so ang dapat content niya lang is information about the subject. Kaya natin hiniwalay ang grades information table. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng pangatlong table. So, many-to-many relationship is working on 3 tables. Kasi nga dito, ilalagay lang natin is grades. Grades lang. Dito, subject lang. Dito, personal information lang. Okay? Now, to explain this one, so we have 3 tables. For the first table is the personal information. Second is the grades information table. And of course, last is the student subject information table. For the first table, meron siyang connection sa ating second table, which is student ID, para malaman natin kung kaninong grades itong mga to. Okay? Kaninong grades itong mga to? Dito sa student information table, naka-assign ang student ID natin sa primary key, which means unique value. Sa second table, naka-assign naman ang student ID natin as a foreign key. Kasi nga, hindi po pwede na iisa lang ang subject ng isang estudyante. Okay? So, more than one ang subject nyo as a student. Tama? So, ngayon, ilalagay natin dito ang student ID para malaman natin kung kanino itong mga grades na to from first grading up to fourth grading. Now, paano naman natin malalaman kung anong subject itong mga to? So, meron ng one-to-many relationship si personal information tsaka kay grades information. Paano naman natin malalaman kung anong subject itong mga grades na to? Kaya tayo gumawa ng separate table for the subject para isang beses na lang tayo magta-type ng subject. Okay? Isang beses na lang natin ita-type ang Math, Science, English, and Filipino, and other subject. Lalagyan na lang natin siya ng subject code or the ID of the subject. This will serve as the ID of the subject. So, kung may ID si subject, then ang gagamitin na lang natin once na kailangan natin ng information for the subject, is ang gagamitin na lang natin is yung ID ng subject. Kaya para malaman natin kung anong grades itong mga to or anong subject itong mga grades na to, we are going to use their subject code. So, ang subject code na nakalagay dito is 00003. So, anong subject yon? English. Okay, so through the subject code na lang ilalagay natin dito. Hindi na natin kailangang i-type ulit ang word na math, English, science. Hindi na din natin kailangang i-type ang teacher's name. Kasi nga, sa student ID na lang or sa subject ID na lang ang ita-type natin para malaman or in order for us to know kung anong subject itong mga grades na to from first grading up to fourth grading. Okay, so yun po ang many-to-many relationship. At ang tawag na natin dito sa additional table or the second table na nasa gitna, which is the grades information table, that is now what we call the junction table. Okay? So, bakit siya tinawag na junction table? Di ba? Pag sinabing junction, parang daanan ng dalawa or daanan na nahati papunta sa dalawang lugar. Okay? So, dito, daanan naman ng information papunta sa dalawang lugar. Okay? So, yun po siya. Kaya siya tinawag na junction table, daanan papunta sa kabilang table. Something like that. Okay? Kaya siya tinawag na junction table. Okay, now, dun sa 3 types of relationships, sa one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many relationship, meron tayong tinatawag na common field. Ano yung tinatawag natin common field doon? Tinatawag natin na common field doon is yung karelasyon ng field name into our main table to the second table. So, di ba, pag mag-i-establish tayo ng relationship, ginagamit natin is field names. Binibigyan natin ng relationship ang field names. Example, dito sa personal information, si student ID ay may karelasyon na student ID dito sa ating subject information. So, yung student ID dito sa subject information, that is na what we call the common field. Yung karelasyon ni student ID sa personal doon sa subject or doon sa kabilang table, yon ang tinatawag nating common field. Yung karelasyon ng ating field names. Okay? So, that is what we call common field. So, that is the 3 types of relationship and that is the establishing of relationship. So, sana naintindihan yung week number 7. Now, let us proceed on the week number 8, the database model. So, simpleng-simple lang naman ng database model. Once we said, we have here our objective, make an entity relationship diagram and convert the entity relationship diagram to object-based model. Okay, once we said entity relationship diagram, these are the flow or these are the representation of the flow of information of our database system through different shapes. Okay, we're going to show the flow of information of our database system through or by using different shapes. Okay, so we are going to use rectangle if we are going to represent entity sets. Pag sinabi natin entity sets, that is the title of your table. Again, entity sets pertains to the title of your table. So, dito natin ilalagay ang title ng ating table. And we're going to use ellipse naman, ellipse shape, if we are going to represent attributes. Okay, ano naman ang attributes? Attributes pertains to the field names. Okay, wag pong malilito. Attributes pertains to the field names. So, pag sinabi nating attributes, ang nire-refer lang nun is field names. And we have also the diamond represents relationship among entity sets. Pag sinabing entity, the table name. Okay, the table name itself. So, pag may relationship ang isang table papunta sa kabilang table, then we are going to use this shape which is the diamond. Then we have also the line which links the attributes to the entity sets and links the entity sets to relationship. Alam niyo naman na siguro ang purpose ng lines. Okay, it is used to link one shape to another. Okay, now, example, we're going to create an entity relationship diagram. Then we have here our identified table. So, we have our first table, hayaan niyo yung book table. Okay, dito lang tayo sa class table. So, we have our class table. The name of our table is class. Then we have the field names for our table, which is the subject code, room, section, time in, time out, and day. If you are going to create an entity relationship diagram of this table, then the result will be look like this one. Okay? So sabi ko kanina, we're going to use the square or rectangle if we're going to show the name of our table. So dito, lalagay natin yung pangalan ng table natin sa loob ng rectangle. Then, nakakonect sa rectangle yung mga attributes or what we call the field names. So, nandyan na yung subject code, room, section, time in, time out, and day. Pwedeng wala itong schedule. Kasi pag breakdown natin ng schedule, magiging time in, time out, and day. Okay? Pwedeng wala itong si schedule. So, nakakonect na sila sa ating entity or the name of our table. So, ayan na yung mga attributes. And kung mapapansin, may kulay si subject code. Kaya may kulay yan, that is an indication that this attributes is assigned as a primary key. So, kung mapapansin, sa subject code dyan, naka-assign yan, may susi. So, ibig sabihin, naka-assign yan as a primary key. So, lalagyan natin siya ng kulay as indication that this field name is assigned as a primary key. Together with the section, kasi naka-assign din siya as a primary key. So, this is now what we call a composite key kasi nga pangalawang primary key siya. Okay, so naka-assign siya as a primary key, the section. Okay, kaya lalagyan din natin siya ng kulay. Another example, student information table. Kung sakaling hindi pa na-gets, we have the title of our table, the student, then we have the field names for our table, which is the student ID, student last name, student first name, and student middle name, and the student address. If we are going to create an entity relationship diagram of this one, then this will be the result. Okay? So again, we are going to use the rectangle symbol if we are going to show the name of our table or the title of our table, and that is what we call the entity. Okay, then, nakakonect sa ating entity is the different attributes or what we call the field names, which is the student ID, the address, first name, middle name, and last name. Reminder, pwedeng wala itong name kasi pag hindi natin breakdown itong mga to, itong tatlong to, magiging name. Pero kahit wala itong name, basta nakakonect sa ating entity. Okay, so something like that. So, may kulay si student ID kasi nga naka-assign siya as a primary key. Okay, so that is the entity relationship diagram or the database model. Okay, so in second grading, we're going to continue the database model using the hierarchy model naman. Pero for now, dito muna tayo sa entity relationship diagram. So, wala na po tayong Google Meet next week because that is for your time to prepare yourself also for the upcoming first periodical examination, and that will start on October 15 po. Okay, so first day. So, yun lang po. So, if you have question, you may ask it now. Pero kung sakaling nahihiya, pwede nyo pong i-chat. Okay? So,